Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa. In the middleweight division, we just got word from Khamzat Chimaev's coach, Khamzat Chimaev's manager, that Khamzat Chimaev's next fight will be before 2023, at the end of 2022, most likely in November or in December, in the 185-pound division, which is middleweight. And I'm looking at a lot of these middleweight fighters inside of the UFC, and I'm thinking, who could that guy be? It's obvious. Paulo Costa is the clear contender. If his manager is saying he wants that fight, if Dana is talking about him not being able to cut the weight, if Joe Rogan's talking about it, if the whole MMA community is talking about it, we have the beef, the trash talk happening between number 6 middleweight Paulo Costa and number 3 welterweight Khamzat Chimaev. Let's make it happen. Khamzat Chimaev, Paulo Costa. The winner of this fight gets a title shot for the middleweight belt, because Derek Brunson, he just lost to Jerry Cannonier. Jerry Cannonier just lost to Adesanya. Whitaker lost to Adesanya. Vettori lost to Whitaker. And if Alex Pereira also loses to Adesanya, this possibly could be a number 1 contender fight for Khamzat Chimaev if he can go out there and beat Paulo Costa. And it's an interesting one because we have two guys that cannot make weight for their respective divisions. Khamzat Chimaev not able to make the weight in the 170-pound division, weighing in 7.5 pounds overweight in his fight against Nate Diaz, and that turned out to be against Kevin Holland. Paulo Costa, pretty similar thing, is that he actually weighed in for his fight with Marvin Vettori at 204.5 pounds. It was absolutely insane. Originally, it was supposed to be a middleweight fight. The man could not make the weight, had to move up to light heavyweight. So both guys are not able to make weight. If you see this type of fight, let's put the two guys not able to make weight against each other. They're beefing. We got Secret Juice, Paulo Costa, and we got the villain in Khamzat Chimaev. Nobody really likes Khamzat Chimaev at this point in his MMA career. Everyone is getting mad at him for missing weight by 7.5 pounds. But we got to remember how much Paulo Costa missed weight in his fight for Marvin Vettori. So if Khamzat Chimaev's coaches are saying that they should go up to the middleweight division by the end of 2022, and the only real guy for them to fight in the middleweight division would be Paulo Costa in a main event, 5 rounds of a UFC fight night, potentially co-main events of a pay-per-view. I love everything about it. Maybe even up main events of a pay-per-view, you never know. But I think it's an amazing fight, and I think prediction-wise, it's going to be a good one, because Khamzat Chimaev, the man, the myth, the legend, went out there, easily took down middleweight, natural middleweight, Kevin Holland, and dorsed him in round number 1. Beat the best grappler, the best wrestler type of guy, except for maybe Kamaru Usman in the UFC's welterweight division. Was able to take him down a few times and outstrike him for the win. Able to easily take down and submit Jing Liang Li, easily knock out Mershard and Reese McKee. But Paulo Costa is a totally different guy. He's a lot bigger. He's able to match the striking and the power of Khamzat Chimaev, and he has that height and the center of gravity that he could be able to defend the takedowns of Khamzat Chimaev in this fight. If you look at Kevin Holland, how tall, how lengthy he is, he's 6'3" tall in the welterweight division, very tall, very skinny for the division, so it's pretty easy to pick him up, take him down. It's going to be a heck of a lot harder to take down a guy like Paulo Costa, that I like to nickname the Meatball, in my opinion. So Paulo Costa, I do see this fight. I don't know why he's having Jean Vellante on his record right there. That's a little bit weird. But I do see a fight with Paulo Costa potentially being a super tough fight for Khamzat Chimaev. But overall, my prediction for this one is going to be Khamzat Chimaev. There were moments when Paulo Costa was making some mistakes against Luke Rockhold, then out of his prime, 36, 37, 38, just really old fighter in the middleweight division. And Paulo was getting reversed on that fight. He was on bottom against Luke Rockhold. And I think Khamzat will be able to get this fight down, potentially, if the fight happens, in the middleweight division against Paulo Costa, mix in the wrestling early on and ground and pound at Paulo Costa, and I think we see a little bit later of a finish here. Paulo will defend the takedown at first, because they're going to be not really I mean, Paulo's going to be very explosive, kind of like a Joaquin Buckley, where he's able to defend the takedown just based off of explosiveness early on in the fight. But after a few big adrenaline dumps of takedown defense for Paulo Costa, I think Chimaev will get the fight down. And at that point, it's going to be like a fish out of water. Paulo might give his back to Khamzat Chimaev. He might try to get to his knees, get to his base, and try to get up and get dorsed by Khamzat Chimaev. Either way, as soon as the fight hits the mat, it's all Khamzat Chimaev's world. And striking-wise, we haven't really talked about too much of the striking potential of Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev. But I'm going to be dead honest with you, I think it's pretty close. I think Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa's striking is going to be pretty even in this fight. Similar power, similar speed, similar volume, and things like that. Striking's going to be even. The takedowns, the wrestling, the grappling is going to be what Khamzat Chimaev will use to get the fight to the floor and win this fight. I don't think by TKO. I don't think Paulo will get stuck in a position like that and ground and pound into a TKO. But I do think eventually he will make a mistake. He will get full mounted or something like that. Give his back up to Khamzat Chimaev, and Khamzat will get the hooks in, get the back of Paulo Costa, and sink in that rear naked choke submission a little bit later on into the fight. So in round number 2, round number 3. But it's a good one. It's a grudge match in the middleweight division. We saw the Twitter beef of Paulo out there calling Nate Diaz the real gangster. Khamzat Chimaev's not a real gangster. Paulo talking about him, I beat you without the secret juice. I mean, the trash talk has been pretty funny between Paulo and Khamzat Chimaev. I'm assuming Khamzat wants the fight. His manager seems to want the fight. Paulo, I would assume, wants this fight because it's really going to build up the name and popularity. Oh, Paulo Costa is going to make a lot of money. Khamzat's going to make a lot of money. And it's going to be a banger of a fight. I can't wait for the lead up if the fight does eventually happen. And like I said, if it does happen, Paulo will make it interesting because he does have some good power in his hands. He does have the ability to go out there and maybe hurt Khamzat Chimaev on the feet and defend a few of the takedowns. But again, I think Khamzat at one point or another will get the fight to the mat and submit Paulo Costa in this fight. And looking at the UFC rankings here, I don't know if I've said it in the video. It might have been in the previous video that I made before this one, but I was talking about if Khamzat Chimaev can go out there and beat Paulo Costa in this fight, where does that put him in the UFC's middleweight division? If Derek Brunson loses to Jack Hermanson, probably put Khamzat Chimaev right at number 4 in the UFC's middleweight division. If he's able to finish him, he'll definitely be at number 4 in the middleweight division, at least at number 5 in the middleweight division. And pretty much everyone above him, if Alex Pereira loses to Israel Adesanya, would have all lost to Adesanya. And Adesanya is not a guy that's going to be like, okay, I want a third fight with Robert Whittaker. I want to do the Jared Cannonier fight for the second time. It was a pretty boring fight. I don't think anyone wants that. I want to do a third fight with Marvin Vettori after 2 pretty boring decision wins already for Israel Adesanya. You know Adesanya doesn't want to do any of that. And if he wins against Alex Pereira in a good decision, maybe he knocks him out. Khamzat Chimaev does have a good way of entering his name into the hat and getting a title shot in the UFC's middleweight division. If he beats Adesanya, boom, he has a possibility of going down to become double champion in the welterweight division. So it's a win for Khamzat Chimaev. If he wins the fight, he gets a title shot at middleweight and a potential double champion status in the welterweight and middleweight division. If Paulo Costa wins, he'll beat number 3, the Boogeyman, undefeated in the welterweight division. And they'll probably put Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker. Winner rematches Israel Adesanya if he's able to beat Khamzat Chimaev. So it's a win for Paulo as he'll get a number 1 contender fight if he's able to beat Khamzat Chimaev. If he loses, well, he's only going to move down 1 spot, and that's about it. And he can easily build himself back up after that. And not to mention, they're both going to make bank off of this fight. So Chimaev versus Paulo Costa, gonna lead Khamzat Chimaev by round 2 or round 3 submission.